back for one more today. So this question is from Michelle, and she wants to know, I'm having trouble with stress. I've never had so many stressors in my life, and I think it's overwhelming me. This morning I had to go to court to be a witness in a case. I was fine after I left, but leading up to it, I was really emotional and lashing out and behaving in a way that I do not want to behave. So, she's having trouble with this stress, and it's being triggered by certain things in her life and becoming very overwhelming. And Michelle acknowledges that she has a lot of stressors in her life. So what I want to do is take you through a little process to, again, ask empowering questions like we've done on some of these other coaching calls, but also be able to get to the root. So what is under these stressors? What is underneath these triggers? Let's use some examples. Start by making yourself a trigger list. What are the things that feel stressful? What are the things that trigger your stress response? What are the things that get you pissed off or overwhelmed? I think you used the word overwhelmed, yep. Really emotional, lashing out, behaving in a way you do not want to behave. Like, what are the things that make you get to that point? What does it take for you to get to that point? So you would make a list of some of these triggers that you experience. So court was clearly one for you today. And this post was her question was from today, so I know it was actually today. And maybe let's just make some examples up. So traffic might trigger you, opening and paying bills might trigger you, loud noises might trigger your stress response, etc., etc., etc. And then we want to ask, what is the deeper emotion? Because stress is just this big word. Stress is a big word that describes so many things, so many things. Like there's physiological stress, there's emotional stress, there's stress from trauma, there's stress from traffic. There's so many things that can create a stress response in our body, like fear. So we want to figure out what is the deeper emotion underneath stress. So we think of stress as just like this big umbrella. What's underneath the umbrella? What emotion is holding that umbrella up? So, if you were triggered by going to court and being a witness in this case, what was that deeper emotion? Maybe you felt angry that you had to be there. So then we would ask, what is the root? So we found that deeper emotion, it's anger. What is the root of the anger? Well, again, I'm just making up a story here. Maybe this relates to you. Maybe you resonate with this, maybe not. But you might have thought, I'm angry because I didn't want to be pulled away from other priorities in my life. This feels like a waste of my time. I value my time. I don't like to sacrifice my time. And I like to have control over my time. And this made me feel like I didn't have control over my time. And you don't want to give away that power to anyone else to be able to control your time. Right? So that's so much more clear on like what's creating the stress than I had to go to court today. And I had to be a witness in this case. When really the stress is not that you had to be there. The stress is that you got pulled away from other priorities. You felt like your time was wasted, etc., etc. Whatever that story is for you. Let's just take another one as an example from our list, traffic. So maybe you get triggered by traffic. Lots of people get triggered by traffic. I am personally someone who I never get triggered by traffic. I really just don't. But a lot of people do. And let's say that it makes you feel stressed. So again, we want to be able to deconstruct that word stress. Okay, it makes you feel stressed, but what's underneath the stress? Well, actually, I think I'm just feeling frustrated. Okay. What's the root of your frustration? Okay. I'm frustrated because I like to be on time and I don't like to be late. Okay. That seems very reasonable. Why? Why do you like to be on time? Why don't you like to be late? Because you want to show other people that you value their time, or you want to be seen as professional. Okay, that makes a lot of sense, right? So there's a simple reason to why you're feeling that, but it's actually not a reason that maybe calls for such a deep stress response or a trigger in your life. But when you can understand what that root is and the understanding of yourself and your own emotions, then we can start to reframe them. So in each of these situations, and I would actually do this as like a whole exercise for yourself, because it sounds like, yeah, the court and being in the witness in the case today for Michelle was like definitely something that was triggering for her, but that she said there's so many stressors in her life. So I would go through and I would list them out. What are these triggers? What are these stressors? And then what are the deeper emotions underneath each and every single one of them? Because stress, again, is this big umbrella word. What are the names of the people holding each of those umbrellas? How many umbrellas are there that say stress? And then what are the name of the emotions holding those umbrellas? Is it anger? Is it frustration? Is it embarrassment? Like, what are those deeper emotions? And then we deconstruct what's underneath those emotions and why we feel that way. And then we become a more empowered freaking human being, because we can reframe these situations so that they are no longer triggers in our life, and instead that we can see them for what they are. Okay? And in this case, it's like, well, really, I just want to be seen as professional. And that's why like traffic stresses me out. So I could reframe the situation, I could see it differently, but also that might inspire me to take different action, like leaving a little earlier. Or in the case of a place that I'm assuming had to be a witness for this case, right? So the deeper layer here is part of our reframing is that really you just highly value your time. You don't want to lose control of your time. You want to be able to have control of your time, and you value your time. Okay, so how can we take that and then provide our body a different alternative route to react, or be able to shift around other aspects of our life so that this doesn't have to be so overwhelming or feel like we're losing so much time? Or can we see it, I just answered or kind of talked about this in a previous video, but how can you also see it as you being of service to the world by being that witness in the case, instead of it taking away from things that you want to be doing? Again, assuming this is your story, which I've just created and made up. But we have to start asking ourselves these empowering questions. I feel like that's a big theme of every single question I've answered today, so that you can get to the deeper layers and we can become more emotionally aware human beings. And once you are aware and can deconstruct your emotions, you can understand why you feel that way. And then you're empowered by asking empowering questions. We get empowering answers, and we become more empowered human beings. And we allow and give ourselves this ability to create a different experience, to react in a different way, and to see these emotions for what they truly are, instead of this word of stress, what's really underneath the layer of that. Okay? If you have any questions or follow up on that, Michelle, that you want more clarity on, please just let me know. But I hope that's been helpful, and start writing that trigger list out so you can get to the deeper emotions. Okay, sending you lots of love.